Good morning, everyone. I know it's a very, very wonderful morning here in my place, and especially in the most areas of our country, things are just okay. God has blessed us with a very, very beautiful and a wonderful weather. Even though where I am, it's very cold. That is within the capital city, that is Nairobi. Very, very cold, but today we are privileged to experience some sun. Mostly it's always very cloudy and foggy, but today there is a brighter sun. There is sunlight today, and you can see even from the plants, they've really sprouted very well. Now today I want actually to discuss on a different topic altogether, because over the last years, that is now, I think it's 2 years from now, it's going to be 2 years today, I was enrolled in one of the classes, which is the CPE class. CPE simply means Clinical Pastoral Education. That I was training to be a chaplain, which is something that I'm still going on, still studying, still doing some studies over it. And I've gone through different case studies, meeting with people. Some of them are people who are affected. It could be students, could be patients, and even at times, some of them are members of our church. In one way or the other, I've had an opportunity of actually chaplaining them. Now, this is what I've actually discovered, to my wonderful brothers and sisters. And this one also, I really appreciate my teacher and my tutor, whose name is Brother Korry Scadden. Korry Scadden, that is the second name is Scadden. He is one of the greatest chaplain, who is actually fully certified by the World Health Spiritual Organization. And anyone who is interested, please, you can actually reach out to him. And as you can see the poster there, this is where actually I do my chaplain studies. It's a very wonderful process and great cause to move forward. Now, like just I said, I want to talk about something that has profoundly changed the way I look at people and especially at life, and that is chaplaincy. Many people think chaplains' primary responsibility is to pray or preach, while those are actually important aspects of the role. Chaplaincy is much broader than just praying and preaching in schools, because in school that is what we used to see. We used to have a chaplain in school, and his main responsibility was to preach to students and teach them the good word of God. But going through the chaplaincy courses, I've come to realize that it is actually much broader than what people think. At its heart, chaplaincy is about being present with people during some of the most difficult moments of their lives. A chaplain may serve in hospitals, schools, prisons, the military. Okay, we also have chaplains in military, workplaces, disaster responses. And mostly I've come to realize in Red Cross also they have chaplains there, or local communities. Now, regardless of the setting, the mission remains the same: to offer compassionate care, respectful listening, and hope. And that is the main purpose, or the very essence as to why chaplains are there, is to offer compassionate care, respectful listening, and hope. And this is something that I've learned from Brother Korry, who is actually my great teacher, the chaplain teacher. Now, one of the greatest lessons I've also learned throughout my 2-3 years class is that people often remember how you made them feel long after they forget what you said. Those feelings will always remain with them. And that is why most of the time when I discuss with my fellow priesthood leaders, those that we are serving with in the same ward, I always remind them that people at times will forget what you do. They will forget what you do for them. They will forget however good things you've done to them. They will forget. But there is one thing they will never forget, is how you made them feel, because that feeling will always remain with them. And at one time, when they look at the area, they visit your ward, they will always remember the feelings that you made them actually feel. And that is very profound. And that is what chaplaincy is all about. That is what chaplaincy is all about. And that is what I've learned throughout my chaplain course, that people often remember how you made them feel long after they forget what you said. Forget what you say. You can speak a lot of things there, but they will not stick with them. But what you made them feel, that one will always stick with them. Now, when someone is grieving, for example, or overwhelmed or afraid, now our first instinct is often to search for the perfect words. Chaplaincy teaches something different. Most of the time, like for example, if you are a pastor, you will always rush to the scriptures and tell them, even Jesus Christ went through this. You try to show people, solutions, or rather than actually, help them go through the feelings with them. But what we normally do is that we show them, or we point at them on what they need to do for them to be healed. But that is not what chaplaincy is all about. Chaplaincy is not about teaching people a lot of words. Chaplaincy is not about, showing people solutions. But it is about you being there, sitting there, being there with them, that you are willing to listen, you're willing to spend your time with them, and also show them that you care, and also walk in their shoes, that making them feel or understand that you really do understand what they are going through. And that is what it is, and that is what I've come to discover, that chaplaincy teaches something different. Sometimes the greatest gift we can give is simply our presence. Simply our presence. Being willing to sit quietly with someone in pain can communicate care more deeply than a long speech. Or listening sometimes becomes an act of compassion. And silence becomes a form of support. So with many people, many a times when we visit people who go through different challenges, we tend to speak more. We speak too much than what is required, other than just listening there, other than just showing them that your presence really matters. Just be there with them. That when you are quiet, and as they maybe share what they go through, that you can feel what they are really going through, and you can feel what exactly, you can show them that you are really listening to them. Because this is what people want, especially those that have challenges. Like, they need somebody to listen to them. They need somebody to be present. They need somebody to show them they care. Those are the things that many people will always want to. But many a times we make mistakes, especially I have seen it so many times to our pastor brothers. They will always rush to the scriptures, and they will always want to show somebody that your faith, you need to be more faithful. You need to, give your life to the Savior. You need to, do A, B, C, D, or even you need to come join our church. That is not what chaplaincy is all about. Chaplaincy is kind of a ministry that shows compassion and shows presence when somebody needs it. Now, imagine an elderly patient who has just received difficult news about their health. Now, family members have gone home and the room feels lonely. Put yourself in that shoes. Now, a chaplain enters, introduces themselves, and asks a simple question: how are you doing? How are you doing? The patient doesn't answer immediately. Instead, tears begin to fall. For several minutes, there are very few words. The chaplain simply remains present. Eventually, the patient says, "Thank you." Maybe that is how they will say. That is how they will say. They will say, "Thank you for staying. Everyone else wanted to fix my problem, but you stayed with me." The lesson is that, the lesson that you can learn there is that presence can be more healing than advice. Presence can be more healing than advice. Okay? That is just case number 1. Now look at the case number 2. Case number 2, let me think. Because I just want you to see the different scenarios here. Let me think. Now, case number 2, maybe we speak of an overwhelmed parent, because that is what parents go through today. Okay? Consider a parent sitting beside a child in an intensive care. Okay? That is in an hospital. Fear, exhaustion, and uncertainty are overwhelming, because that is what a parent will go through, especially when a child is sick. Then the parent says, "I don't know if I'm strong enough for this." Now, rather than offering quick reassurance or easy answers as a chaplain, okay, the chaplain listens carefully and acknowledges the weight of the situation. Okay? You acknowledge the weight of the situation. They help the parent identify supportive family members, encourage moments of rest, and if welcomed, offer a prayer. That is, if welcomed, you can offer a prayer. Now, the circumstances have not changed overnight, but the parent no longer feels completely alone. Now, sometimes hope begins when someone knows they do not have to carry a burden by themselves. And that is what chaplains offer. That is what chaplains do offer. That is the work of a chaplain. Okay? Now, let me again give you the case study number 3. Case study number 3. These are just small case studies, but in our studies, I wish some of you will build that interest to join this chaplaincy class. There are so many things that you learn that opens your mind and realize that how many people make a lot of mistakes, while in actual sense, when they think they are actually solving problems, when they are really making it worse. Now, case study number 3. For example, a student who felt invisible. And this one happens a lot in institutions, more so also in our country here, especially in secondary schools. You find there are students who simply are not performing well, not because they are not bright enough, but it is simply because of how they feel. And that feeling makes them feel inferior. They feel inferior because they are not visible enough, and that one even ends up affecting their performance. Now, as a chaplain, what happens here, that in a school setting, a student begins withdrawing from classmates and losing interest in school. Instead of assuming laziness, that is what many teachers will conclude, or poor attitude, a chaplain or caring elder chooses curiosity over judgment. After several conversations, the student shares that they have been struggling with difficulties at home and have felt isolated. What made the difference was not a complicated solution. It was that someone noticed, listened, and cared. And that is what chaplaincy is all about. Chaplaincy reminds us that every person's behavior has a story behind it. That is what chaplaincy is all about. And I tell you, my wonderful brothers and sisters, when I was going through these classes, there are so many things that were so mind-boggling that they were actually a breakthrough to me. And at times overnight, I will sit down and go through some of the, discussions we've had, because we normally have these Zoom discussions. So at times I will always want to go through those Zoom discussions and just listen to what we were discussing and how my fellow, classmates were contributing, and all the contributions and highlights and insights that our tutor Korry will give. And these things are just opening our minds, and I'm like, how many times do we make mistakes? At times we think we are solving things when we are actually not solving. How many times have I had brothers and sisters, at times, they come to your office and they want to talk to you, they want to tell you how they feel. And many a times I've seen leaders will conclude that this one only needs, assistance here. This is the assistance they need. But in actual sense, beside those assistance, which is something that can be discerned by the leaders, but one thing I've come to realize that many a times when going through these classes, I've come to realize many a times when a brother or a sister reaches up to you, it is not always necessarily material assistance, but it is only that they need a listening ear. They need somebody to be present in their situation. They need care. And that is why a lot of branch presidents, bishops, will confuse that, and they think only administering welfare to these people will solve their problem. But in actual sense, that is not the case. That is not the case. And as I was going through these classes of chaplaincy, that is when I realized. And as I go through, discuss with people, try to ask right questions and listen to their inner hearts. Like, there is a brother, I asked him, like, he was going through some serious problems. Each family has its own unique challenge. And I asked him a question, like, I really wanted to understand what he was going through. And I asked him a question, how does it feel like to be you right now? In your situation, how does it feel like to be you? He opened up and he told me things that were so terrible that I could not even imagine a brother will go through such a challenge. And I understood him, because I put myself in his shoes and showed him that I am there walking with him through this journey. And he felt like at least I have somebody that I can talk to. And when I finished that conversation, he confessed to me that actually right now, even after talking to you, I feel my chest is light. I was harboring a lot of things in my chest, but now my chest is very light just after talking to you. That is what chaplaincy is all about, and I feel like this class has really helped me to be able to relate with my fellow brothers and sisters in the kingdom. As I talk to them, as I discuss with them, sometimes some of them will share these challenges, even though at times you may not have, economical, power to be able to help them out. But the fact that they know that you care and they know that you can listen to them, that one carries the day. It carries the day. And all it's because of this class, the chaplaincy class that I've actually been taking through. Now, what exactly do we think that a chaplain can make an effect, or what makes an effective chaplain? Now, throughout my studies, I have learned that effective chaplaincy develops, qualities that are valuable not only in ministry, but in everyday life. And that's why in the beginning, when I spoke of chaplaincy can be found everywhere, in our communities, in our churches, in schools, in military, in hospitals. Chaplaincy can be found even in organizations, in companies. There are chaplains there. They can be found everywhere. These are people who can be found everywhere. Okay? They can be found everywhere. In other words, these are people who help us actually face our daily to day life, because life has so many things. Because one thing is that chaplains, they listen more than they speak. They respect people from different faiths, cultures, and backgrounds. And that is something that I've come to realize, because at times when somebody goes through a challenge in his faith, most of the time, especially we Christians, at times we think that the only solution is for them to convert into our religion or to come to our church. And that is not about chaplaincy. Chaplaincy is not about converting people from other faiths to the other faith. But chaplaincy is about just to listen to them, understand what they are going through, and let them know that you care, that you can listen to them, and at the same time also you understand their pain, And that one shows that you are very respectful of their different faiths, cultures, and backgrounds, The other thing is that chaplains protect confidentiality and build trust. They protect confidentiality and they build their trust. They also avoid judging others. They support people without trying to control their decisions. They also remain calm in moments of crisis. Could be very, very much crisis. You are not being taken by that current, but you remain calm. And then they recognize when someone needs additional professional support and help connect them with appropriate resources. Like you'll find one of the questions that Brother Korry will always ask us during that time, because you'll have time for everybody and chaplains, everybody. And then he will ask you questions. What do you think I can do to help you connect with the source of your healing? What can I do? This person may be a Buddhist. Some of them may be atheists. Some of them may be people of different faiths. And some of them may not necessarily be like me, a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I meet people who are not necessarily of our faith, and they could be patients in hospitals. They could be students in different, schools and all that. Recently I met one of the students who is at the university, that is the Kenyatta University. His name is he's called who? His name is what is his name? Harrison? Yes, his name is Harrison. He's doing at the Kenyatta University bachelor's degree of education. And this is a young man who comes from a different faith. He's an Orthodox, and I'm a Latter-day Saints, and we were talking and I chaplained him over so many things, only to realize that he had a story behind it, that everything he was going through, he had a story. This is a young man who grew, and he was only raised by his mother. He was only raised by his mom. He had never seen his father, and he doesn't even know who his father is. So that is something that has been really, really getting into him. It has been really getting into him, and until one day, a friend of mine actually connected me to him, and he was like, Gabriel, I think you are a chaplain. I think you need to talk to Harrison. We had an appointment with Harrison. I did not tell Harrison about, joining our church or maybe becoming a Christian or something, even though he's Orthodox, and I think Orthodox are Christians. But I didn't tell him that, you can understand things better if you come to church, because I knew that is the time I needed to differentiate between being a missionary of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and being a chaplain. And at times I have to transition that in different conversations, differentiate being a missionary and also differentiate being a chaplain, because there are some areas that I would really want to be a missionary. I would really want to tell people about the church and what we believe in. But there are some areas now, other than just becoming a missionary or becoming, a Latter-day Saint, at times I become a chaplain. I realize that this is now a situation that requires my chaplaincy skills other than just my missionary skills. And that is what chaplaincy is all about, my wonderful brothers and sisters. That you remain calm in moments of crisis, and then you recognize when someone needs additional professional support and help connect them with appropriate resources. These are qualities every one of us can develop. These are qualities that every one of us can develop. And I will really, really encourage all of you. Man, you are missing a lot. You need to actually join this class. I don't know how they do that, but I got some grace because I want to say thank you very much to Korry, because he identified me. In fact, he just found me online, and he shared with me if I would be interested to be a chaplain. And I was like, oh yeah, I really need to be a chaplain. And he gave me an opportunity to become one. He gave me an opportunity to become one. It has really, really helped me. Not only me, even my family. How I relate with my family too. It has really, really helped me. And I would like to invite all of you, man, reach out to Brother Korry. I will leave his links right on my videos. I'll just put up a link there so that you can reach out to him and maybe talk to him. And I know even in this video, he could be listening to this video. You can reach out to him and talk to him if you're interested to become a chaplain. I promise you, this is something that will change your life. It has changed mine in a big way. It has changed mine in a big way, and I'm glad that I'm able to serve, other people better, by understanding them. You can serve people better through understanding them, and that is one of the greatest way. Now, whether we are parents, teachers, leaders, neighbors, or friends, we can practice chaplaincy principles in our daily lives. That is one thing you need to know, that we can listen before offering advice, ask thoughtful questions instead of making assumptions, be present during difficult moments, treat every person with dignity and respect, and offer hope without minimizing another person's pain. Offer hope without minimizing another person's pain. These simple actions can strengthen relationships and communities. And that's why, to me, I advocate everyone should be a chaplain. Everybody should be a chaplain. And Brother Korry will actually train you to be chaplains. That one is a fact, because I'm speaking of Brother Korry because he has actually made me one. He has helped me actually to become one. And one of the things that I also came to realize as I started to be a chaplain was that, in our African backgrounds, especially for those who've gone through circumcisions, in our traditional circumcisions, we were always told that men do not cry. Men do not cry. Men are not supposed to cry. Now, traditionally, a man is not supposed to cry. You feel your pain and walk with it and have it. Let nobody see your tears, because it's a sign of weakness when you cry. That is what traditionally we were taught that. And I grew up to be that staunch traditional fella that I will not actually cry, even though I am breaking inside. But tears or crying, it's not my portion. It's not my portion. But throughout that, I have seen also many people who've died mysteriously because of these pains that they go through. Men cannot speak. With women, they can speak. They're allowed by tradition in our culture to cry, because in our culture they say women are, weaker vessels, so they can cry. And with them, when they cry, it's okay. But for a man to cry is a sign of weakness. It is not a sign that you are grieving inside. It's not a sign that you are broken inside. Because nobody wants to see your brokenness. And nobody believes that a man can break. Because if a man breaks, then he's weak. And that's why at times you find most African men crying just anyhowly. It is not in their blood. It's not in their portion for them to cry every now and then. And these are some of the things that you are taught when you go through these initiations or circumcisions. You are told this, that you need to be a warrior. You are a warrior of the community. You cannot betray your community when you're a weakling. And that's why you are trained to be tough. As a young African boy, you are trained to be tough. But one thing is that in my life, I had so many things going on, and I couldn't share with anyone. So many things going on in my life. A lot of things going on. And it was in this class, the chaplaincy class, that I ended up realizing that it is okay for a man to cry. It's very much okay for a man to cry. It's okay for you to cry. And they encouraged me, it is okay for you to shed a tear. It's okay, for you to cry. And it's like all the stalks of my pain, all the stalks of my pain and my problems came to be. And I remember one time I really, really cried in that class. Poured all my heart in that class. I really cried. Something that I had never imagined, that I have tears. Because many a times we were told that boys in our communities, our tears are dry. The tanks of our tears are dry. We do not have tears anymore because of what we've gone through. But that statement was a lie. People go through issues. People go through issues. I have a friend who actually, when we were young, he passed away in a very so mysterious way. He decided to take away his life because he had no one to talk to. And one morning, as we were taking care of our cows, we were herding and we were taking the cows down the river, we saw a body hanging, and only to realize that he was our friend. He had hanged himself. We rushed back to the elders and called the elders, and the elders came and they did a ritual there before they took the body out of that tree, because my friend had issues, had a lot of things in his heart. They say in a funeral, that is where a lot of things are revealed, only to realize that he was not the real son of that community. He was adopted. And these are some of the things that were really going through his mind, that who are actually his real parents. He really wanted to know who the real parents were. And these people didn't know who the real parents were, because there were so many traditions. What they say is that he was found, he was just thrown on the road. And the woman of that compound picked her. And that woman, who now happened to be his foster mother, took care of her, picked her from the roads, and when she shared that to him, that really disturbed him, because there is this culture, and to those who are not Africans, you may not understand this, but to those who are Africans, they understand this. There is a culture among Western people that when a family, bears children, and these children tend to die. Like every time they bear a child, children tend to die. They always die. It is said that if they want to save a child who has been born, because they fear again that child will die, given the fact that the rest have been dying, what is normally advised that the woman of the home will live with the child out of that compound and take that child to the far area and drop that child in that area, because probably that child, the spirits of this community will not follow that child and kill that child. And that is how, like, for example, you've had people who are called makoha, like in Western, there are people who are called makoha. You know, those are children who are born like that, like they were taken out of makoha. Makoha means leaves or dirt that somebody threw them, and they were picked out of that because their community wanted to save him, because the community comes from an area whereby those spirits must be appeased for children now to start living there. And that's why you find some families, they give birth to children, and children, they continue just dying. So what happened, some of them, for them to save these children, they will take them to other villages and throw them on the road, and whoever will come across them will pick them. That one, what normally happens. But now the issue here is with modality and modernity. When these children grow, and at the end of it all, they realize their names are makoha, and they start doing their history about their names. What happens? They realize that at one time they were dumped somewhere, and the people who are taking care of them are not actually their blood parents. That one is always traumatizing and very disturbing to them. And so many people go through that, but they cannot talk, they can't speak, because you are not supposed to talk. You can't speak because you are a man. For women, they can speak, they can talk about it, and they heal, and that is how they heal. But for men, you can't even cry about it, because you cannot cry as a man. So these are some of the things. And my friend actually took away his life because of that. So there are so many things that people go through. All they need is just a platform for them to talk, to speak, talk out their minds, talk out their hearts freely, and let them shed their tears freely. Let them lighten up their chest. And this is what the communities deny them. And to such a people, they need chaplains who will actually show them it is okay to cry. It is okay to shed tears. It is okay to speak what actually is in your heart. And that's why chaplains play a bigger role in our communities. Chaplains are not just preachers, because at times we take the work of chaplains to the preachers or to the pastors, and we think once somebody is a pastor, he's automatically a chaplain. No. This is a skill that requires training. This is a skill that requires training for one to realize the qualities of a chaplain they have. Yeah? Now, chaplaincy has actually taught me that caring for people is not about having all the answers. You know, it is about being willing to walk alongside them. In a world where many people feel unheard, lonely, or overwhelmed, becoming a better listener and a compassionate presence is one of the greatest gifts we can offer. As the saying goes, that people may forget words, but they will rarely forget how you cared for them. Okay? That is how it is. They will forget all the good words you spoke, but they will never forget how you made them feel, how you really cared for them. And that is one thing that we need to put in mind, especially as we find ourselves in a docket where we need to serve people. I think the skills of chaplaincy really applies in leadership. It applies across board. And I always tell people that the master chaplain, one of the greatest chaplain, was the Savior Jesus Christ himself. Because one of the apostles of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints said that before Christ will actually heal people or perform any miracle on somebody, one thing is that empathy was with him, that he will feel what the person was feeling. You know, he will feel what that person was feeling, and he will show that person that he really cares, and he will also show him that he is always present with him. And in that way, the Savior will always perform miracles because of empathy. And that is what chaplaincy is all about, that we feel the pain of people. We feel their brokenness, and we walk with them in that brokenness. Not because we want to fix them, not because we want to show them a solution, but we can help them, walk towards that same solution. And that's why many a times in clinics, a lot of patients, many clinics, hospitals, they need chaplains. They need chaplains there. At times we think that these preachers who go to hospitals and preach and speak a lot of words there and preach to different worlds. I've seen that many a times. Like several weeks ago, I was in Kenyatta, visited there with one of my friends, and I saw a lot of pastors there who will preach and all that stuff. And there also a hospital I visited, which was MP Shah. We visited there with a colleague of mine also. And I saw also some preachers will come there and preach and all that stuff. But not realizing that chaplaincy is not about preaching or being a pastor. It is about you showing that you care, you listen, and your presence really matters. Showing compassionate to these wonderful brothers and sisters who need our presence and who need our guidance and who need a place for them to pour their hearts. And that is what exactly chaplaincy is. I am so grateful for the Spirit of God to have guided Brother Korry to invite me to be in his class. And as right now I'm just about to graduate, I would like to encourage anyone outside there who is listening within the sound of my voice, that I will encourage you that if you've ever thought of becoming a chaplain, don't hesitate. This is the time. Please make sure you make those decisions to become a chaplain. I'm telling you, it's worth it. First of all, it will shape you on how you view things and how you view people. And at the same time also, you'll be a very big tool in helping people. That is what chaplaincy is all about. It's one of the greatest and most important profession that you can ever have. Otherwise, thank you very much. God bless you. Looking forward to see you again next time. Thank you.